This is Busybody Podcast. I'm Cadence Reeves, and today I'm joined by the founder and CEO of FinGym. And I'm very biased, which I will explain later. Welcome, Shannon.
Thanks, Cadence. So happy to be here.
I thought it'd be interesting to have you on because I mainly talk to people about like physical fitness, their bodies, our bodies, how people's bodies change, expressing our bodies. I've had people on talking about anything from menopause to styling and dressing, and looking at that from an anti-patriarchal lens. And I think what made me think of having you on is that our physical wellness is actually so tied to our financial wellness. And that our financial wellness as women is so neglected, I think, and in so many ways, from women really being discouraged to talk about making money or being paid fairly, to
the emotional side of spending, which is real. And that women do tend to have spending triggers, or that kind of emotional knee-jerk reaction is more, it happens in all genders, but certainly more predominantly skewed to women. And then we're shaming ourselves because we did the financial equivalent of eating a cheesecake, and now we're judging ourselves. And it's like, okay, well, cheesecake is gone. There's nothing we could do now but work it off, let's drop the shame. Let's drop the judgment we're giving ourselves unnecessarily and work off the financial cheesecake.
That illusion, because even though I'm not into dieting, when I first started working with FinGym, so I should also just let listeners know my bias, which I'll go into in a second. But when I first started working with my financial gym coach, I got so good at my budget. I was like, oh my God, I feel like someone who used to binge eat, and now I'm on this really strict calorie count. And now I'm terrified to ever go out of my budget. And she was like, you're allowed to buy a thing, I was like,
oh yeah. And then we're like, okay.
I was like, I'm scared if I spend money, I'll go into a spiral.
I'll go back.
But so let me give people my backstory. Very ironically, right before the pandemic, one of my clients was posting on their Instagram about working with FinGym and how they were finally paying down all this debt. They had 2 separate bank accounts set up now. They could see the future. They were planning on buying a car. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? Because I was drowning in all kinds of debt from opening a business. And I think kind of interestingly, I was very lucky to not have school debt. And which enabled me at a very young age, I think I was about 27, 28, to open my business and get into an enormous amount of business debt, basically corporate loans instead of school loan. If I had all that school debt, I wouldn't have been approved to get into more debt.
Yeah, right.
That's the American. Everyone gets into some kind of debt.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest shift, what was so crazy for me was I was I literally got FinGym's info from this client. I was like, I'm gonna reach out to them, and then things happened, and then 2 weeks later the pandemic hit, and a month into the pandemic I reached out because I was like, okay, now my income has been dramatically reduced and I still have all this debt and I don't know what to do. And working with you all was just such a game changer, and incredibly, I was able to keep paying off debt while in such, desperate circumstances, basically, and come up with a plan that really worked. And even though I made the reference it was I was on some kind of crazy restrictive diet, it really was just that it was working. And so I was keeping to it so carefully, because I just was never
work the plan. The plan works.
I was just I've never had this kind of guidance before. And I think that's where there's a lot of shame, because for some reason in our culture, so many things, in a lot of ways, what I do, I'm really a big believer in my classes. I really teach people how to use their body. I always say to people, no one ever teaches you how to do a plank, but we're all supposed to just know how to do it, because as an adult, it occurs in almost every class, from a yoga class to a HIIT class to whatever. And yet, whoever taught you, when did anyone break that down and explain to you where it comes from, how to hold it,
Yeah.
Okay.
Also there's different ways to do a plank, right? Based on our physical bodies and what we're capable of at the time we're trying to do a plank. There's also plenty of ways to get financially healthy. So you're talking about, the structure. Some of our clients just need that, right? Some clients just need to know how to do the plank and then they're going to do the plank all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Some clients will get to know how to do the plank and they're like, I hate planking. Can I do something else? Like, can I run a mile? Can I do, and we're doing the financial equivalent of that. We're like, okay, that didn't work for you. Let's try something else. Like, because to your point about being scared to go backward, what we want to see from our clients is, first of all, we want to deal with whatever challenges that are preventing them from accomplishing what they want to accomplish, whatever that is. Like, we don't care what their physical state looks like, a financial state, what their financial state looks like and what it will look like in years. We just care that it's the state that they want it to look like and they want how they want it to look. But there's different ways to get there. And what we want to accomplish and with working with us is that we're not only going to lay the foundation and create something, a system that is that's not only good for you, works for you, and you like doing it, but it's going to be sustainable and it's going to be a complete lifestyle shift. So from where you started, because we're going to always be dealing with financial things, just like we're always dealing with physical wellness things, and we're always dealing with mental well. Like I always say, physical, mental, and financial wellness are the three legs of all of us, like all of our tables. And we understand physical wellness, even if we don't know how to do a plank or whatever, we know that we should be doing something physically better for ourselves. There's like that general understanding. Mental wellness is getting more and more. We're grateful for it, speaking about publicly, like less and less stigma there. But financial wellness is still the taboo leg of this wellness table that is not being addressed, because as much as I love people breaking the stigma around mental wellness, and they think there's such a stigma with that. What we see at Financial Gym is there's actually a bigger stigma around financial wellness, that because we say money is the ultimate taboo topic. We can see somebody's physical, like we're wearing our physical wellness around, right? And we can wear our mental wellness around. You could be even on a Zoom call and tell somebody's not having a great day, right? We can see those things. We cannot see somebody's financial wellness. And because of that, people make assumptions. They're like, oh, look at her apartment. She must be very financially well off, she must be financially healthy, or they're traveling all the world and like they must be financially healthy, or they have that car. We make these assumptions of what financial wellness looks like. But the reality is that over 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And so what I tell people, that's that's greater than half the population. And when you're talking about a number as high as 70%, it doesn't matter how much you make. It doesn't matter if you make $50,000 a year or you make seven figures. We've seen both. We've seen clients make $50,000 a year living paycheck to paycheck. We've seen clients who make $1.5 million a year live paycheck to paycheck. Mm-hmm. I always say the problems are the same. The zeros are different. So that's the thing that's the aha we've had sitting in our seats the last 10 years, is we've seen it all. And we realize we're more commonly connected financially than we are physically or mentally. And that's one of the barriers and stigmas we want to break, is like, everybody's struggling financially in some way, shape, or form, especially after the last year and a half with inflation. And now student loans are coming back. There is more and more of even if you were feeling good before, we have a lot of clients the last year and a half feeling like, I don't feel as good as I used to. And it's real. Like, it's been a real impact on people's budget, the cost of things. And so, again, our overall message is that we're probably more alike than financially, all of us. Mm-hmm. So if you're feeling, the two words we hear all the time at Financial Gym are fear and shame. Those are the top two things that clients are telling us. I'm afraid I will run out of money. I'm afraid I'll never get to retired. I won't have enough to retire, or I'll retire and eat cat food. That's one of my favorites. Like I won't have anything, or I'm ashamed that I don't have savings, or I'm ashamed I have all this credit card debt. And what I always say is that we all are impacted by financial decisions. We have to make them every single day. And money in financial choices is literally part of our DNA. It's just something as adults we have to deal with. And to think about fear and shame running through that process, it honestly hurts my heart for people, because the hope and promise I would like to give to anyone listening to this is that the best thing I can say is that everything you do financially is fixable. Every single thing. Finances themselves, the numbers themselves are not a life or death thing. The way we feel about them, the way we mentally address them, or how they can impact our physical health, those could become life or death things. But the actual money, it's all fixable. And I'm not saying that to like gaslight anybody or make anybody feel like it's not real. It's that I've been doing this now for over 13 years. And we've worked with, again, the broad spectrum of people. And we've seen people break generational cycles, like living that paycheck to paycheck that their parents did, their grandparents. We've seen people build first generational wealth. We've seen them break through those things. They've needed the accountability and support that we provide, but we see it happen every single day. And I always say everything's fixable. It's just how much fixing do we have to do? And so sometimes people come to us, they have a lot of debt. And that's part of the problem. We'll talk about things like, maybe we need to get a personal loan or, to consolidate, or we've had to coach some clients into bankruptcy. And that's one of those words. There's a lot of trigger words in personal finance for people. That's something we've learned over the years. Bankruptcy is one of those because there's a lot of stigma to it, right? Oh, I'll be so embarrassed. What will I tell my family? What will I tell my friends? First of all, you don't have to tell them anything. I mean, some people you might have to because it is a public filing. But here's how we feel about bankruptcy. Most people didn't learn about money, right? You probably didn't learn about it at home. You probably didn't learn about it at school. And you probably didn't learn about it at your job. How were you ever supposed to know any of this, right? But you were also targeted by credit card companies and financial institutions intentionally because they know you don't know. So you had it working. The system was working against you, right? But the beautiful thing of the system working against you is there is a mechanism like bankruptcy to help you kind of clean the slate and, have a new start. And the way we think about bankruptcy is not this like horrible, shameful event. We think about it as, hey, you didn't know. You got yourself into some challenging situations. There is a mechanism for us to fix this temporarily, but are we going to fix it long term? Meaning, I like to think about, I give the analogy of bankruptcy like lap band surgery, right? We could take all that weight off easy. Like we had clients have $50,000, $100,000 of debt be wiped away in a day. It takes time, bankruptcy, all the stuff, but it goes away, in that filing, they could drop $100,000 of physical debt or financial debt. But now we don't want to regain that debt. And that's what we're talking to our clients about is like, look, we got rid of this. Now let's create a healthier system and put systems in place so that we don't go back into $100,000 of debt, because that's not where we want to go. We understand you got there the first time. Let's fix it so that we don't get back there. But it's all fixable. We've had clients file for bankruptcy and they're able to buy homes. We've had clients file for bankruptcy and honestly, the dirty little secret is that as soon as you file for bankruptcy, you'll get credit card offers because financial services industry knows that you can't file again for another 7 years. Oh, so they're like, it's like a drug dealer, right? They're like, oh, they're out of rehab. Yeah. Let's serve them up again. Yeah. So we have clients who are afraid of that. We're like, no, actually you'll get a lot of offers because of that, which is ridiculous. But,
explain just the basics of what you all do, because it's probably better said in your words than mine, but it's a female-owned company, correct?
It is. I am the founder and CEO of FinGym. I had the idea for it 11 years ago. And I tell people all the time, like, you started a business, and I always, and I told you this when we met separately, Cadence, that like, I was like, I salute you. You did a thing. You have physical occasion. Like I understand the bravery at all. I never wanted to do this. Like I never wanted to be a founder. I never wanted to start a business. I, went to college 25 years ago, or almost 30 years ago now. And I wanted to be a business major when I was in college because I wanted to make a lot of money, but not have a lot of education. Like I didn't want to be a lawyer or a doctor, but I wanted to make 6 figures. So I was like, oh, here I go. Right. So I was a business major, and I used to tell people all the time, I'm not saving the world. I'm just making money. Like that was, and I worked on a trading floor and investment banking. And I tell people all the time, I'm not changing the world. I'm just making money. And I did that up until my 30, or like it was 30 and a half. I was saying that, and it felt right. It was all great. I hit 30 and a half and I was like, what what life did I sign up for? And so I hit, when I was about to turn 30, I tell people this story all the time. When I was about to hit 30, I was like, I had all these friends turning 30 and they were like really upset about it because they were like, I'm not married. I don't have a child. You know, my job sucks. Like 30 is a big girl number. You know, I'm not in great shape. And I was telling my then husband, now ex-husband, spoiler alert. I was like, 30 is going to be so easy for me. We're married. We got a kid. We have this great house. I have this great job. Like all the reasons why my friends are upset, I've checked all those boxes. So 30 is going to be great. I hit 30, had a mega birthday party blowout that I threw for myself. Not financially healthy, by the way, but a lot of fun. And it was all great. I hit 30 and a half. It was probably halfway through my 30th year. And I was like, hit a big depression state. I was like, I don't want the husband. I don't want the kid. I don't want the house. Yeah. I don't want the job. I don't want to have to do this work. And I tell people, it's like I signed up for somebody else's life and now I can't get out of it. And in that process, I ended up working with a life coach, to help me through these feelings, you know, my mental wellness around it. And in the process of doing that, he had me read a book called Happiness. It was written by a Buddhist monk. He's like, I think this will be helpful for you. Actually, backtrack, before he suggested the book, he said, we started out our sessions. He said, what's your purpose in life? Oh. And remember what I was saying, my purpose was?
Not help people and make money.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, exactly. I didn't even have an answer for him because at this point I dropped the other purpose in life that I had given myself. And I was like, I don't even know what to say. I don't know. Like it felt like such a big question that I didn't have an answer for. And it felt very unsettling to me when he asked it. So he's like, okay, that's part of the work we'll do. You know, he's like, because everybody has a purpose on this planet. You know, he was practicing Buddhist. So he had a lot of Buddhist philosophies that he was bringing to our life coaching work. And so part of my homework was this book about happiness. And because he could tell I was very unhappy in the life I was living. And I just wasn't woke to it until I became woke to it. And then I realized I was very unhappy. And in the book, it was about 400 pages of there was a lot of woo woo in it, you know, but I was eating it up. It was like, you know, the things that we think, you know, are sad or, you know, the yin and yang of life, all that kind of stuff was really resonating with me. But it all led up to essentially the culmination of this book was that to achieve long-term sustainable happiness, which is what we should all want in life, is to help other people without expecting anything in return. So literally opening a door for somebody and not expecting a thank you. That's what you want to do. Like, that's what we should do. And we'll be happy doing that. Yeah. And that was my first light bulb moment on this journey. And it is honestly the first step in my gym journey, because that book was like, I want to help people. Like that is what it just sunk in with me. I was like, yes, I want to do that. I don't know what and how I'm going to do it. But it was like, that was the first thing. And then it just filtered through everything. And I was making job decisions and I was asked to come back to Bank of America, Merrill Lynch. And I left and I was happy in the other job. They were asking me to come back. And I was like, I was miserable there. I got out of there. I see a lot of miserable people still there. This was 2009, really horrible time in financial services.
It was a year after I moved to New York City, basically.
There you go. Yeah. So very familiar with that time, especially in New York, certain financial hubs, it was horrible. And, but I said to myself, there's so many unhappy people there that's probably where I should go. You know, I was being called back and I was like, I know there's a lot of, and I don't know if this is the right job for me, but I know there's a lot of unhappy people and I want to help people. I want to help people. So I came back to work for Bank of America. My job was working with Merrill Lynch financial advisors. Bank of America and Merrill Lynch had merged in 2008, 2009. And so part of it was I was legacy Bank of America. They brought me back to help kind of integrate with the Merrill advisors, my area of the bank. And so I was meeting with Merrill Lynch financial advisors. That was my job all day long, getting to know them, talking about this area of our business. And around the same time, I was like, we need a financial advisor. You know, I say to my husband, which I still wasn't sure I wanted to be married, but I had the kid and I was working through those things. And I said, we need an advisor. And I was working with all these Merrill advisors. I was like, it's going to be so easy for me to find our person because I'm unofficially interviewing them, you know? And then I tell people the second wokeness of my life was realizing that 80% of financial advisors are male. And I always say there's nothing wrong with that. I married a man. I birthed a man. I love men. But it felt really unfair, to like when I'd been in financial services for like 10 plus years at this point. I didn't have an issue working with men or being in that industry. But when you start thinking about personal finances and your personal money, and I have a lot of, friends who I know have, are uncomfortable in these situations, I thought it just doesn't feel fair. That there's not an alternative solution. So I thought if you can't beat them, join them. So I became a Merrill Lynch financial advisor. And my goal was to help more women become financial advisors. I was like, I understand why women, maybe feel uncomfortable talking about money, but women are really good at this. Like, this is a job. This is a really great job for women. So I became a Merrill advisor and knew nothing about financial advisory. I was in financial services, but company side, so corporate finances. Now I'm in personal finances, learning so much. I'm all excited. I'm learning what ETFs are. I'm things I didn't know or get exposure to, and I'm loving that. And the only thing I'm not loving is that as a Merrill Lynch financial advisor, you had to have $250,000 in assets, investable assets, for me to manage before you could even work with me. So I was told when I was there, I always say mentor in air quotes because that you're assigned a mentor at Merrill. I didn't take any of their advice. In fact, I did the opposite. But, I sat and I nodded my head as they tried to guide me down a path I wasn't going to go down. But one of those first meetings was a mentor who told me, Shannon, you've got to pre-screen all your calls. Make sure that people have money before you even meet with them, because if they don't, they literally don't even count as a client. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And I, prior to this, the manager that hired me, I told him, I said, I will never cold call. And I don't want to do all these things they're telling me to do. He said, look, as long as you bring in business, I don't care what you do. You don't. And I was like, okay, good. I said, I will hit my targets. I will do the things I need to do, but I have to do it my way. And he was like, it's fine. So I just nodded to this guy and I said, I cannot even imagine asking how much money somebody has before we have coffee. Like, that just doesn't feel right to me. So I'm not going to do it. So when I started marketing myself as an advisor, I just said, hey, I'm a financial planner. If you have friends or family that want to talk to me, here's my link. And so one of those first meetings I got through my network of friends was this woman who was lovely. We had coffee. And it was almost like a movie because we sit down, we're having coffee, getting to know each other. And she's like, here's my situation, Shannon. I have 250,000. And I swear there was a pause. I can see this like it was yesterday. And I'm like, great. And she's like, of student loan debt. Oh. And I was like, oh, and I didn't make a face, but I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, and I make $50,000 a year, like not the 6-figure job that my law school took. She's a law school grad, a lawyer, working lawyer, making $50,000 a year. And she's like, yeah, not the job my law school told me I would have, taking on all this debt. And she's like, and I just feel unlovable. Like, who would want to marry me with all this debt? And this is all over coffee. Cadence. I was like, I kept a poker face the whole meeting, but I was like, I don't have anything at Merrill Lynch to help her, but I wanted to help her. Like, cause I was like, this is a lot of feelings around finances that I wasn't used to. If I had to describe my financial state, there's all different personas. I was the person who had a problem, but didn't know it. Right. Mm-hmm. And because I didn't have debt, but I was spending on credit cards and I was using my bonuses to pay them down. Mm-hmm. And I think about it now, and there's a number of people who have this. They're like, I don't have a problem. I pay off my credit card balances in full every month. Okay. How much are you also saving? Because maybe if we didn't have $7,000 credit card bill, we could have put $2,000 away into, a savings account or, more into your retirement account. That's what I didn't know. That was this, and I just thought I was doing great because I was maxed out my 401k and I didn't have credit card debt. So I thought I was in great shape. Okay. P.S. If that's you, it's not the best shape you can be. There's a better shape you can be in. Just like somebody who's like, I walk every day. Okay. Right. That's great. Right. That is great that you are getting that kind of movement in, but maybe it's not taking you to where you want to go physically. And maybe we need to add on some planks. Maybe we need to add on other things to your routine to get to where you want to go. So I and then I just started taking a whole bunch of clients like that. And I called them my pro bono clients because I was having, people were coming to me with wealth. I was bringing in, I was toeing the line, like I said I was going to do. But then it was like this dirty little secret because I was like helping all these people on the side. Mm-hmm. And I was doing that for a period of months and really loving that work. And I tell people becoming the worst financial advisor ever because I love my pro bono clients with no money. And not that I didn't love the Merrill Lynch clients with wealth, but it's just, I was really loving this.
Exciting, I'm sure.
It was game changing. And I did this. And then I finally had my Oprah. I'm getting to like the gym, I promise. But I was getting to I got to my Oprah aha week. And I tell people, it's like, it hit me like a lightning bolt. And it was a week of my life. And it started with a couple. They had over $1 million with me. We were doing their quarterly review. They had $1 million plus. They're both making six figures and the markets were down. So their portfolio was down like 3%. And it was like the end of the world to them. They were like, how are the kids going to go to college? And how are we ever going to retire? And what's going to happen to us and this and that and the other? And in that meeting, I spent an hour of my life making them feel better about being a little less rich. And it felt really soul sucking. I was like, they thought they were high on a ledge and about to fall off. And I was like, guys, this is not, but I understood where they were coming. Everybody, it's perspective is everything. Right. But, I was like, is this what my job's going to be? Because I don't really love this. And especially because I'd been meeting all these other people, right? Like I'm thinking about that woman who felt unlovable with her student loan debt. And I'm like, these people have no idea. Like, this is not, I'm seeing other problems that are bigger than what these people feel like. And so, but that sat with me. And then 2 days later, it was, so Tuesday to Thursday night, I met with a woman who is a pro bono client. And I gave her plan, which you've received this similar from us at the gym. It hasn't changed a whole lot. It looks different, but it's essentially bulleted in English, right? Like, here's how you tackle savings. Here's what you should do with the credit cards. Here's what you do with the student loans. Just, bulleted because I couldn't use anything at Merrill Lynch. So I just created my own little template. And I go through it with her. And at the end of the meeting, she says, you're saving my life, right? And I was like, what? Like, first of all, no, in my head, I was like, a financial plan saving your life. And it was literally in direct comparison to that other meeting. And I thought, this meeting feels so much better than that meeting. And there's so many more people like this than that. And none of the financial industry wants to work with this group of population of people. Yeah. And I'm seeing all the, like the way that if they just got the help, because this is the interesting thing too, nobody wanted me to work for them for free. Like everybody's like, I'll pay you to help me with I'll pay you. And I didn't have a way at Merrill Lynch to take that. Nobody wanted a handout. Nobody wanted it as a nonprofit. And that was an early conversation I had with a friend is like, should Financial Gym be a nonprofit or, what is it? And he was like, no, it should be, it should be for pay because people are more motivated if they're invested in it and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, okay. And so in this week, literally, I have this all floating around. And at the same time, I'm on a weight loss journey because I had my son. He's 18 years old, actually, today, as we're recording this. He just turned 18. But, I gained a bunch of weight with him and thought breastfeeding was going to lose it, did not. I was one of those women who thought breastfeeding was going to miraculously, force my body to go back to 25-year-old Shannon. It did not. And then I just got into a stasis at that weight. You're just like, okay, this is the new me. But I never felt comfortable in that state. And so when time was ready, like my son was 5 years old and I was like, I have got to do something. And I fits and starts over those 5 years. And I remember telling people, I gained all this weight with my baby. And they were like, yeah, but it's baby weight. And I was like, yeah, but my baby can read now. Right. So I don't think I could call it baby weight. Like it's time for me to do something for myself. So I was on this weight loss journey and I just remember thinking there's so many places I could go to get physically healthy. Like I did WW Weight Watchers now, and working out and different things. There's so many places we could go to get physically healthy. But if people want to get financially healthy, where would they go? And that was my dilemma of where do I send all these pro bono clients to who are saying I'm changing their life and saving their life with the information they need. How do I help them? Where do I send them to? That's going to be a place that's going to treat them like they're worthy, no matter what their net worth says, because they're feeling like there's not a place that's saying that. And I thought, if you want to get financially healthy, you go to a financial gym. And that was my lightning bolt. I was like, it's financial gym. Their financial advisors are trainers. They wear jeans and t-shirts. Clients pay a monthly membership fee, just like a regular gym, a regular gym. Everyone could work out here. And it all came like fully formed, Cadence. And I went from, I never want to do a thing, to like 13 years later, I see it so clearly. And I was like, I got to do the thing. I got to do this. And I knew nothing about starting a business. I had a physical location model in my mind. There's a lot of costs around that. And but I saw gyms across the country. I saw a big picture, but people were like, you got to bootstrap it, Shannon, like prove that people will pay you for a service, because that doesn't exist now. And I remember that period of time, those first 2 years after I left Merrill Lynch to start figuring this thing out. Those were like called like the dark years, because my whole family thought I'd lost my mind. Like, I'd left a 6-figure investment banking job at Merrill Lynch that people thought that was a great brand. I had guys that I worked with that were like, good luck starting a business without the Merrill Lynch brand. And I was like, I think I'm going to start a better business because I'm not the Merrill Lynch brand, but thank you for your advice. And so family thought I lost my mind. I went through everything I owned personally. To my 401k was gone after 2 years, because I was having to support my family, and I was charging, $85 a month for people, and I wasn't scaling quick because I was figuring it out. I was like, I know how to teach coach. Like, I was figuring out the thing. And so I remember it was about 2 years in, and I was like, I got to go back to work at Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, whatever. I said, this has been fun helping people, but like, my family is struggling financially. And I told my then husband, now ex-husband, but he'd watched the journey now for 2 years. He'd seen me help people. He'd seen the transformation in their lives. He's like, this is really something we should keep doing. And he's like, I still have money in my IRA. Let's keep it going, which I always joke. I'm like, that's not the best advice for somebody starting a business, is tap into the retirement accounts. But I understand why you may want to do that. I had to do that personally, and there's no judgment. That was the place that we had it. It does inform how we help clients save now, because maybe it shouldn't, if there's a possibility of that, maybe it shouldn't go into the retirement account. But, I learned from that. But anyway, it was like 2 weeks later after he said that, and we're like, okay. And he didn't have a whole lot left. I mean, it was only going to take us, a few months further down the road. And I had a meeting with my former boss at Merrill Lynch. He was just laid off from Merrill Lynch, and I was telling him what I was up to the last few years, like, and loving the client work and the impact. And he was loving hearing that. And then he got a severance package, and he said, how do you think I should invest my severance? And I said, I think you should put some money in a small financial services company that's about to run out of money.
I love it.
And that was our first $100,000 check. And he was like, you're right. And he wrote the check. He sent it in the mail to me. He's like total definition of a boomer, in every way imaginable, but he embraces it. He sent a check in the mail, and the envelope said, knock 'em dead. Oh. And he's like, go for it. And from that point on, then we just kept, growing. And to this point, we've raised over $11 million of investor capital. We did get to open up 4 physical locations. We had to shut them down because of the pandemic, because we couldn't sustain them. But we've worked with over 15,000 people in all 50 states, as young as 17, as old as 75 plus, and everybody in between. And the beauty of this journey is that I think about all the time is that the people we get to work with, because we don't have minimums, because our clients, we can take a credit card payment. We understand they're struggling. We've had clients start with us, and the trainer's like, I don't feel comfortable charging them their monthly fee because we've got some fixing to do. And sometimes we waive that, but typically clients don't want it. They're like, I need the payment. I need to be held accountable. I know I need this. You're here to help me. And that's what we want to do. And to the point, that's why we have a money back guarantee. Because we know that if our clients are really going to put in the work, because just like getting physically healthy or mentally healthy, it takes work. We got to put in time and energy. But if they're willing to do that and meet with us and really solve for problems, within 6 months, we can get 70 90+% of our clients like hitting their goals.
Mhm.
Within a full year, we have 90% of our clients hit their goals. And what I say and why we're successful and who are those clients? It's the ones that keep showing up and the ones that attend the meetings. And we're trying to figure out the levers to pull. Like, again, with the workouts, I think anybody listening to this who understands, the physical wellness journey, there's not one size fits all workout for people. Yeah. Just like there's no one size fits all budget. Budget's another trigger word for people, Cadence. It's like budgets are like diets. No one wants to be on one. They're like, they're going to put me on a budget. I don't want it. So we rarely use that word internally. But the reality is we all need to be on a budget, except for 1% of the population. We should all be looking at and optimizing and enhancing, just like, again, we could be physically fit in one way, but we could always be, optimizing. And it's just, to what degree do we want to head in that direction? So the point is, like, we've gotten to see it all. And there's such a beauty in that because, like I said, we're all more commonly connected. That's one of the eye-opening things. And it's just, and the best thing I'll say of a financial wellness journey versus a physical wellness journey is we could get results a lot quicker. And I think that's sometimes hard for people on the physical wellness state. If you're not seeing the pounds dropped, or you're not seeing the clothes, or we're not seeing something, then that could detract us from staying on that journey. Within a few months, we have clients experiencing some really significantly positive changes in their finances. And the best thing is we could point to it. We have the numbers. We're like, look, you started here, now you're here. And that helps keep them engaged too.
I think what's really so incredible about what you do, and it's something that I was looking for from the moment that my business opened, because like yourself, I knew nothing about running a business. I had an idea. Mm-hmm. And I opened it with no money in the bank account, which you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to be the expenses saved, which is also hilarious because you don't know what your expenses are going to be. I mean, besides your rent. I mean, I love a lot of that really basic financial advice. I mean, I remember somewhere in my youth, someone being like, you should always save 20% of your income, for your, and I was like, right, but you don't live in Brooklyn where your rent costs 50% of your income.
Oh yeah. That's the thing. We and that's what the problem with people Googling, or having friends make suggestions or whatever. It's like, okay, great.
Very dependent on your environment. Your
and circumstances. We have clients who see those savings pie charts like that are publicly out there. And especially if they live in New York or California or Seattle, like some high expense areas, that's those metrics are not going to work. And so then we have to, make choice. Like we've got to shift the pie chart. And honestly, the other reason why you can't just take Google advice from somebody or advice from friends is they don't know your financial state, right? So telling you to save 20%, they don't know. Remember, money's taboo. They don't know.
It's a huge intimacy. I mean, I remember the first meeting that I had with my first financial gym person. I was so, like, talk about shame, like all this stuff. I was just so like mortified of like what she would think. And she was so kind and was just like, all this makes sense. But it felt like such an unburdening, it's like you're reading my diary with me. And it's so amazing that with your program, you can literally link the person you're working with to and someone like my circumstances, my business accounts and my personal accounts. So one person finally has my full picture because I had no one looking at my personal because that, like, I didn't have enough, as you say, enough wealth that I would have a financial advisor. I had my business accountant doing my business books at the end of the year, but he doesn't see just kind of my personal expenses and things like that. And I was always sort of begging him for any kind of advice, but he's not an advisor, and I really tried, I opened my business in 2010. And I remember I went to some like Chase Women in Small Business thing. It was like a free event.
I did a lot of those in the early days too.
Yeah. And they had advisors and they had accountants and they had people giving us advice, but it was so like patronizing, really. They I remember they made us all stand up and like do our elevator pitch on what our business was. And I don't really have a business. Like, sure, it's handy for me to describe my business in like 2 sentences, but I'm not selling like a hair care product. Like I don't actually need to like grab somebody in that way.
I'm not looking at this for a marketing thing. I'm really trying to learn how to run my business.
Yeah. And I met some financial advisors there, and I knew that like if I was going to, because as a small business owner, I don't have a 401k, I have to buy my own health insurance, like all that kind of stuff. And I was like, if I'm ever going to be able to live with any kind of stability and not paycheck to paycheck and not white knuckling it through every month that I'm trying to pay my personal rent, business rent, eventually 2 location commercial rent, just like enormous expenses, someone has to help me figure out how to have my money make more money and save and all these kinds of things. I tried, everywhere. I had different accountants at various times. Finally, now I have a lovely accountant, but I also realize that your accountant can't be your financial advisor,
Yeah.
But I think I had like 3 different accountants early on. I had 2 different bookkeepers. I had a long period of time where I had no bookkeeper and I was trying to do it myself, which was a terrible idea. I went to some free program where you can learn how to do like accounting and stuff, which was a bunch of retired old white men who were so patronizing and weird. And like at the end, I was going all the way to like Midtown Manhattan from Brooklyn. It was like this huge commute to try and learn. And this guy was just treating me like I was 5 years old. I never learned. I really just didn't learn anything from him. It was such a waste of time. And it was just like, if you all had existed when my business opened, who knows where I would be now, honestly, because that was the education that I needed. And I just had no one told me like how to plan for things more. So, we also just had like the tiniest amount of profit every year, but just like the kind of debt that I got in, if we like our HVAC system broke, that's $5,000. That just went on a credit card. I had, in my mind, I had no choice. I might still not have had a choice, but if I had been talking to one of you guys, I know that I would have gotten advice about how we can start to put towards that. How can we pay that debt so you don't get killed by the interest? Like, what can we do with that debt? What can we do with any profit that you're making to make the most of it? Like, I just was, truly treading water, trying not to drown for so many years.
Yeah. We were trying to figure out the business. And what hurts my heart, Cadence, is like you were looking for the guy. Like you knew you needed it. You were searching for it. And that was my issue when I was at Merrill. I had all these people searching for it and they found me, but I wasn't allowed to work with them. And I was like,
I remember, because my studios are when I had storefronts, were in very, very wealthy areas. I had clients who were 1%ers for sure. Clients that go to secret, super rich people meetings. Yeah. Which are a thing, apparently. They are. And plenty of clients who are financial advisors and all stuff. And I would straight up ask them for advice. I think I have a vague memory, this was so long ago, of someone really sitting down and like looking at some of my finances with me, trying to help. But also I don't think that person was a financial advisor. They were just like extremely wealthy person. Yeah. They were just kind of like, I don't know, this savings account has a pretty good interest rate. You should be fine. Like they just didn't know what to do with someone who is making little and scrounging. But I was very proactive. I was really trying to get that help. And so when I saw that what this was, I was like, I think this is what I've been looking for. And it's just been life-changing for me to have a plan, finally. Someone like, I'm a reader, I'm a learner, like, and I think instead of having advisors with you all where they're just like, well, I'm going to do this and this, and like, we'll check in. I was meeting with my person like every other week in the beginning, like really following the steps with her, doing it myself, trying to figure out. And she's teaching me. I could send her emails all the time if I was like, this bill came up, I'm not sure what to do, or like, and this was like early pandemic days. So there's all kinds of stuff that's happening. Like she walked me through the PPE and like all those things that were happening. That was enormous. And then she eventually left the company. Now I have a different guy with you guys. And he's great too. And he's, now we've like moved into a whole other stage, and I meet with him much less often because I'm much more comfortable. But it's amazing to always have someone that I can reach out to where I know I can get on the call with him and he can literally see all my accounts. We have this whole history. And what I love about you guys is because you're more, I don't even want to say non-traditional, because it just seems like you're actually just meeting people where they are instead of being kind of like incredibly narrow-minded about what wealth means and what financial planning means. With my first financial planner, we used to have 2 retirement plans. One was a more standard retirement plan where we were like figuring out how much I should save every year to live pretty much a similar lifestyle, until the end of my days. The other one was called the apocalypse plan. We're like, if banks collapse and the world is a garbage dump fire.
Yeah.
Because I was like, our first real talk about the future, I was like, right, I totally want to save for like quote unquote retirement. Also, sometimes I think that means we're all just going to be like living underground on like canned food during some sort of horrible radiation winter. And she was like, true. So, but we like took it seriously. She was like, so we'll make 2 plans, and then, like, if you really, if it seems obvious that the world is just sliding off a cliff, you can switch to plan 2
B.
You don't need to save so much.
Yeah. I have a podcast episode called Investing for the Zombie Apocalypse because I had a listener years ago who was like, Shannon, all these personal finance episodes talk about like saving for retirement. Great.
Right.
She's a circus worker. She's like, we talk about the, like a zombie apocalypse way more than we talk about planning for retirement because we feel like that's more highly probable. So I did a whole episode about it. The funny thing is because I've watched like Walking Dead and things like that. Sure. And every time I watch these movies, these apocalyptic movies, and my fiance and I joke because we're both in the same camp. I'm like, just kill me on day one. Like, right. Or let me just like, cause I don't want to live in the Quiet Place is coming out with a prequel. It's like, I don't want to live like that where, just take me out. Like any of the survival stuff. I'm like, I don't want to survive in that. But anyway, the point is, there is that, but but I'm sure you're seeing this, like the way we talk about, we've got clients who are in retirement who are stressed and we're like, okay, here's what we got. Like retirement is going to look different. Like, but here's what it'll look like. It's still going to be great. Like, because our clients who are in their 60s, the good news I'm giving them is Social Security is still here for you. So that's a good thing. Our clients who are under 50, we need to get them working harder. We need to get that money invested and we need to go be more aggressive because when you run the projections, and if you think about Social Security not being there, which I think it's a very high probability, then we have to have, that's like kind of, it's not an apocalyptic thing, but it's just, we just have to plan for that because Gen Xers, millennials, Gen Zs don't have pensions, don't have those other sources. A lot of people don't have the generational wealth transfer that is expected that could be coming in the next few years. So we're going to have to work harder. But the good news is if we start earlier, it'll look better, or it will be prepared. And at least we could adjust along the way, because that's the thing too. It's like you said, we're meeting people where they are. And I appreciate your thoughts on that first session. We call it the Financially Naked session at the gym, the first session with us. And we call it that kind of tongue in cheek, but it's because we understand that our clients are feeling that level of emotion, that they're going to literally strip financially naked in front of us. Yeah. And we're probably for the first time to another person. A lot of times we have couples, it's the first time they're hearing things and we're in the room and we understand we're fully clothed and that's the degree of discomfort we understand our clients are in. And so it's honestly part of our training program is to give people comfort in that. Because at the end of the day, Cadence, we don't care what you look like financially. I don't care. You're judging yourself way more than we are. Right. And by the way, 9 times out of 10, that judgment our clients are feeling when we're getting those numbers, they're not and from our perspective, they're nowhere close to like the degree of emotion that somebody's giving them. Like we'll have clients who are like, I've got so much credit card debt. And we're like, okay, and I'm, and they're feeling all these strong emotions. And then we start getting into the digits and we're like, okay, what are the credit cards? Because they've been preparing us. Like a lot of those meetings as the clients pre-preparing us, they're like, okay, when we get to the debt, you're going to do that. And we're like, all right, we'll get to the debt, Right. And then we get there and they're like, they have like $30,000 of credit card debt, which feels like a lot to them. We kind of have an internal joke. We're like, if you have less than $100,000 of credit card debt and less than probably like $150,000 of student loan debt, we're like, we're not even breaking a sweat. We're like, no problem. Because again, the amount of fixing we have to do. No, scratch that. $100,000 of student loan, $50,000 on credit card debts. But we've had clients with $100,000 plus of credit card debt. Yeah, we're not scared by any of it because again, everything's fixable.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Shannon of Financial Gym. If you want to save on your first month of Financial Gym, feel free to use my name, Cadence Debuse, and I believe you get a discount. And as we know, that savings adds up. Stay tuned for next week and part 2 of my conversation with Shannon of Financial Gym.